Hello, everybody, and welcome to CraftCon. I'm very excited to be joined by my friend Heather. Heather, this is the second time we talked this week, and I'm so
I
excited.
love this record we're setting.
I know, exactly. Do you want to introduce yourself to people in case they don't know who you are?
Sure, yeah. Heather Hildenbrand. I'm an author, a paranormal romance, fantasy romance author. I've been an author since 2011, so like for a minute. And I am also a coach. I am the CEO and coach behind Manifest Your HEA, which is really just all about helping authors work through their mindset, their stuff. Like we get in our own way so much. And so I'm all about helping us take ourselves out of the way so we can make more money and be more successful and have a better time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And you were one of the first people that I thought about when I was planning this conference because, I don't think anyone thinks about how to break blocks through as many different angles as you. So like when we talk, you talk
Yeah.
about like, okay, I'm going to talk about manifestation, but like if you want to like here's 20 studies about
Yeah.
the same thing and like here's also the business aspect and here's like the life aspect. Like you just like you're like here all of the and it's so interesting to talk to you every time because you're like, it could be this, it could be this. Let's come at it from all of these angles. So
Yeah. Well,
um,
that's pretty much the coaching process because I have to like fool people to get past whatever resistance they have to these new ideas. So I just have to like figure out a way past people's defenses.
yeah. So, in your experience, like, why do people have blocks? Just like, why are they
Like
blocked? Like,
what
why do?
caused them
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah. Well, like, what are some of the way? Like, someone comes to you and is like, Heather, I'm blocked. Like, what do you like? What are you attributing it to, or like, what are you looking for?
yeah, it's always our beliefs about ourselves. Our beliefs about ourselves and how the world works and how we fit into the world. It's always that. Like I'm gonna just go straight for it's maybe gonna be esoteric, but like you said, maybe also it's just science. It's all our identity. It's all who we are and how we show up to the table. I talk about this all the time. Like you can have all the pieces in place in your business as a career author, but it's who you are when you show up to the table, right? And we put way less emphasis on that, or just no one told us. No one told us that was important. So we just like bypass that and go to the action, the hustle, the what am I doing wrong? But we got to back it up. It's like way before that.
Yeah, it's so interesting to talk to so many successful authors who still don't have their stuff together at all, like not even like a little. If anything, less together than like some of my less successful author friends because I spent all of this time like weighing down myself. It'd be like, well, like that's not how a successful author goes through the world. And I was like, successful authors go through the world like successful authors because they're successful authors. Like they're like that's just like the thing that they are. And so you can we talked about this, and I love this. The conversation was about like success is not a leading indicator; it's a trailing indicator.
Totally. Yes. Yes. And that is all a different way of saying like it's not the hustle. Sorry, bad news for the hustlers, right? For the perfectionists, for the people who don't think they're good enough, so they try to prove it through action and earning. It's not, right? It's the last thing that shows up because the first thing that shows up is you and who you are and what you're bringing to the table. And but I love that you said they don't have their shit together because one of my favorite like mantra affirmation things that I installed as a belief now is I get to be rich and a hot mess. I get to be successful and a hot mess because that's like a rule we put on. So it's all about figuring out what these rules we or parameters we put on success and like when I'm allowed to have it. When am I allowed to have it? Well, I'll be allowed to have it when I get my shit together. But like you're never gonna get your shit together, really, not in the full way that you're sabotaging yourself by saying so. So now it's like you're not allowed to be successful because you don't have your shit together. It's like you just put this rule, this sabotage on yourself. And what if you just said like, yes, what if I could? What if I could? Then what?
Yeah, I mean, so here's a really interesting thing that I found with success is the longer you do a thing, and the more success you have, the more different accesses that you can be a failure. Like when you're four, there's like three of them. But like once you start having success, there's all this chaos that's happening under you. There's like chaos engine that's like working to be like, okay, well, your translations could be not doing well, or like at any time, not all of your series are going to be selling, and not in the same way, and not at the same time. And oh my God, you're not going to be a New York Times best-selling author of every book every day of your life. So like, there's always all of this stuff is happening, and then like your life happens, and like your car breaks down, and like there's just why I why it just opened my eyes to this idea that like people don't have their it's like there's just so much more stuff to get to. Even if you have all of your stuff together, there are just an infinite number of accesses where you could always, if you're looking for failure, you will always find it.
Yeah, so when you're exactly, I was gonna say when you were talking, what it made me think to clarify is like it's our self-concept, and our self-concept determines the story we tell. So I talk about this in coaching a lot, especially because we're authors. Like, what story are you telling yourself? And what are you making this mean? So, when something happens, it doesn't go your way, like your book doesn't perform the way you thought it would, what's the story? It's not about the performance, it's about the story you're telling. And if your self concept is somebody who you're more likely to say, oh, that's because I suck, I'm a failure. Of course that happened. Like nothing good ever. I knew this wouldn't work, right? And that's based on what you believe about yourself and who you are
Mhm.
and what you're capable of in the world. Or are you somebody that is like, it's fine. It's fine because everything always works out for me in the end. And if it didn't come from this, it's going to come from something else. And like, but I am making money over here. And like, all that is determined by our self-concept and then the story we're telling ourselves. And that determines everything.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's so interesting when I talk to people who are doing something that just they're doing this thing that doesn't have a very high likelihood for success, but they're expecting success anyway. And when they don't get that success, it's completely stymies them. And I often find myself going like, well, like 100 books are on the New York Times best-selling author list like this week. So like and 3,000 books got released today. So like the odds of you across a month like getting on that list, and that doesn't even include every book, is like not, it's like not that you shouldn't go for it. You should go for it. But like you should cut yourself some slack if you don't do it because the odds are not great in your favor.
Yeah, and you just should do yourself a favor and like not compound it by telling yourself the story of, oh, well, the reason it didn't happen is because I suck. Like you're just compounding that and you get to choose the story you tell about that. So but we don't remember that we get to choose. But like if we remember that, then we get to choose deliberately and we get to choose wisely and we get to try to change the story, the narrative. Like I always tell people, my clients especially, like your job is to think like the press for everything that happens to you. You're like, how are we going to spin this? Like, because the thing you make it mean, you could make it mean there's 3,000 books that came out this week and 100 hit the list. Like, yeah, that makes sense. Or you can make it mean I suck, I should quit, I should never write another book. So you get to decide.
Yeah, I love all of the I mean, I obviously love you and all the things that you do, but like this idea that I got from reading you and Renee's books was this idea that like you hold what you want tightly, but hold how you get it loosely. And I think that as writers, we try to dictate every story, right? Like we would dictate every level of every story. Like we're like, okay, if I don't know every way it's going to happen, I can't even start. And then it's like, oh, it was derailed. It was done this thing. It was done that thing. But if you can, when I started like holding this how the process more loosely, it became more fun for me. But
Yeah.
B, it's like, oh well, like I don't know what chaos engine happened. Like I failed there, so like that is not going to be the way I get there, but like there's an infinite number of other ways to get there.
Yeah. And also, there's proof available for that, which, again, going back to the science, because our brains love proof. So I'm helping all of our subconscious minds. So if you look back at the stuff that you have accomplished in your life, you pick one thing and go, you like try to remember how that really unfolded. How did that really happen? And chances are it did not happen in the way that up front, when you set the goal, you were like, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then it's going to lead me to this, and then I'm going to get the goal. That's never actually how it happens, right? It's never that simple or linear or just whatever, right? So we really can't predict anyway. And that doesn't mean don't have a strategy. It just means what you're saying. Like if you hold the how loosely, recognizing that just because you don't know how it's going to happen doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Because, like, wow, a lot's happened for me before, but I've never known how in the moment. So, what if we just chill? And, like you said, it's more fun because you're like, not knowing how doesn't mean not happening.
Right. I have found that most of the success of breaking through blocks and doing the thing is just like I used to say it was getting knocked down and getting back up, but I don't think that's true anymore. I think what's actually true is not getting knocked down in the first place.
Okay, love this. Because the other thing I was thinking is actually the other thing it does when you hold the how loosely is you think more creatively, right? And so actually, and this is kind of like what we were talking about last week on your podcast, but actually, the way your success is going to happen is in a way you can't imagine because if you could imagine and you tried it already, like you would be there, right? So,
Right.
the whole goal is to get into a space in your mind where you can think of creative ideas that you haven't thought of before, like a different method, right? And so we can't do that if we're in fear or if we're in stress or if we're in desperation. Like we have to get into, so the holding it loosely puts us in a state of mind where we are going to have more, like those brilliant shower ideas where you're like, what if I just tried it this way? And it's weird because I've never done it that way before. And then it works, right? So we need to be in spaces in our minds where we can receive more of those kinds of ideas. And that's the holding it how loosely for me, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is to me like it goes back to why I love AI so much, and like why I love Plotdrive so much. But like, there is this idea that's like I don't know what's going to happen, but like I also can't iterate endlessly on everything. But I can be like, hey, what if the next thing we do in this story is this chaos engine thing? Like, what happened? Like, walk me through, like, what might happen. And like, I almost never use that part, the thing that actually they use. Sometimes they do, but usually I'm like, that chaos engine moment leads to this chaos engine moment. And suddenly I'm like off to the races. And so often I find like, I I was letting myself get blocked for a thing because I didn't have an answer. But if I have a bad answer, I don't care what the answer is. It's just like an answer moves me forward and gets me to a better answer.
Totally, totally. I think so. Agreed about AI. It like in this way, one of the things I love about it is it's the sounding board, and which is basically what you're saying. And the thing about that for authors is like it's such a solitary career, right? And a lot of times, I'm not even necessarily someone I would consider like a verbal processor. I'm very up here. Like if you use Clifton Strengths, I'm number one intellection, which is
Mm.
how I'm able to come at things from all these angles, like you said, because I have thought the shit out of all of this, like backwards and forwards. So I'm not even a verbal processor, but like we all benefit from a sounding board. We go, like, I don't know about you, but I'll go sometimes talk to my husband who doesn't even read my genre. And I'm just like, word vomiting the plot, and then he'll like give me a terrible idea. I'll be like, "What do you think I should do?" And he'll say something absolutely not, right? Absolutely, that's not how this genre works. Like, no, that's the
Mm.
worst idea. But then I'll be like, "But wait, now that just gave me this great idea, right?" And we don't always all have that kind of sounding board available in just another human like in the next room all the time we need it. And that's one of the things that I hear from people that they're using AI for is that sounding board. So yeah, it's like you get all the bad ideas out and then you get the good one and that's the creative thinking we're talking about. That's the process.
Yeah, I I think that in a career that is so determined by one brilliant idea, like we are all, every single one of us, one brilliant idea away from being Stephanie Meyer. Like we're all one brilliant
I
idea.
agree. However, listen, sometimes I feel like that idea puts a lot of pressure. And I actually have this is how I balance the scales because it's like, is this going to be the brilliant idea? Oh my God, what if it is? And I got to put so much pressure on this thing, right? And then it gets out in the world and then it like completely sinks like a brick in the ocean. And then you're like, shit, if I can't recognize the good idea, how am I ever going to have? And so like for me, there was a point in my business where that was debilitating. So for anybody who feels that way about this thing you just said, which I'm not saying is wrong, it's not wrong. Track record shows it's not wrong, but Also, balance the scales. My success is inevitable. This is
Sure.
a belief I installed. My success is inevitable, right? And it's so inevitable that it's not reliant on any one thing. So I can chill out about figuring out the one thing, right?
Yeah. So I see where so all of my best ideas are the ones that nobody reads. And so like I don't hold the brilliant idea. Like I want the brilliant idea. I want to put it out there, but like I don't I don't have a corollary between like this brilliant idea means that everyone will read it. Like
Okay, well,
I,
I think that's important to distinguish
sure. I
because
didn't
it's
realize it until this moment.
because you said it the other week too, or the other day, and I had the same thought, but I didn't, we got distracted. But I think like I had the assumption that it did, and I think it's because that is what we see. We see these breakout bestsellers or overnight successes. And we just make these assumptions, like you said, like, oh, this next book could be it, the one, like,
Right.
make me my millions or whatever. And that's what gets put in the spotlight more, like Hollywood and whatever. So that's what we see. But actually, I just, from a financial standpoint, from being able to make this a sustainable career for almost 15 years, I'm going to tell you, I don't have a breakout.
Yeah.
In terms of financial, I hope this is encouraging. I don't have a breakout. And you know what? I would, not that you have to choose, you get to have whatever you want, but like I would rather have steady, abundant income from all these different, I am like, how many income streams? How many times can I
Mm,
sell this book? How
sure.
many formats can I sell this book in? Um, and like, and that's what I mean when I think I'm taking the pressure off. It doesn't have to come from one thing. It's going to come from a different thing. It's going to come from all the things. It's just coming. It's just coming for me.
So this is really interesting about like blocks, to go back to blocks, what we're talking about, because like if you come to it from your perspective, if I come to it from your perspective, I'm gonna remain blocked. Like the way that I get through it is like, this is a brilliant idea. I just like don't care if anyone like reads it. Like I have no opinion about whether somebody reads it. Like I would
But
like
that's
it if they,
beautiful. That's not having blocks to start with in these areas, and
right,
these are areas a lot of people do that I work with. So that's why I was like, let's distinguish these things. But yeah,
yeah,
so like I think part of it is recognizing that when you hear me say that and you go, not helpful, then you just throw it away. Throw it
right.
away and don't even use it.
Well, I think the thing that I talk about a lot, and I think that you agree, and I think we've had alignment on this before, but like it's this idea of raising the floor. Like,
Hmm.
like what is really important in my career is that every time I launch a book, I can make 5 grand. Because if I can make 5 grand every time I launch a book, no matter what it is, then like I can make any weird book that I want. And like it doesn't matter like what the like I have complete free. That's how I judge complete freedom. Um but we spend so much time trying to raise the ceiling, which is like the most successful thing that we do. And
Hmm.
if we judge so much the most successful thing we do, and everything has to be the most successful thing we do, then we get stuck in this. I have to write in a series I might not want. I have to do
Yeah.
this thing that I may not want because like it might be the six that might be the like if it's not everything has to be the most successful thing ever, but like my whole goal in my career was like, man, if like 200 weird people read this book, like, and they'll give me 20, like, I can write literally any book I've ever wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, right. So the context matters. Who you're bringing to the table matters because like your perspective and mine and the way we're seeing things is already kind of different so that when we come to the table as these different people processing it in different ways, we can't just hear the same thing and both go, yeah, that's helpful, or both go, no, that's not. So yeah. Yeah, I think like I being able to identify your blocks, right? So that self-aware, like how you're viewing something or how you're processing something to know whether it's helpful or not for you. Because Also, what happens in our industry, I think a lot is we hear expert advice, and I
Mm.
put it in quotes because even if it's great advice, it doesn't mean it's great advice for us, for you, for that specific person, right? And also because nothing's going to work twice in the same exact way. But what we do is hear it and go, they must know better than me. So even though my intuition's telling me to do it this other way, I'm going to do it the way they said. And even though I hate doing it that way, I'm going to do it the way they said because they must know better than me. That happens so much. And I think we need to like be aware of our blocks, be aware of what I call a lot in coaching is your best process. Because when you do things your best way, then you're in alignment and you're going to be more successful anyway. And like trust our own wisdom, you know?
Yes.
That
Okay.
removes a
So
lot of blocks all by itself, honestly.
yes. Okay. So I would love you to walk through like your best like how do you help somebody do like where like someone's coming to you and you're like, Heather, I am completely blocked. Like I don't know what to do. Like how do you like walk them
I
through
go,
that?
what, tell me about your process and how you feel about it, first of all. I mean, there's a lot of ways you would go through something like that, but I would go like, how long does it take you to write a book or how long do you give yourself to write a book? Stuff like that. And I start digging it because what I'm looking for is what do you hate? What do you hate, but you're making yourself do it anyway? And then I go, stop doing that. And then they get very deer in headlights because it's fear. It's actually what I encounter a lot more is on the surface is the foot on the gas, the hustle, right? That we
Mm.
all think we need to be hustling harder. If we're not where we are, we must have to work harder or longer, write more books faster, right? So it's
Right.
the hustle. And I go, and I'm basically like saying in different words, like, do you like that? And they're basically saying, like, hell no, that's why I'm here. And so then I'm like, well, you have to stop. And then they're
Right.
like, this is some bullshit. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's not. So it's really figuring it out isn't hard. It's being willing to do it differently is hard. So it's about learning how to like have faith and trust in it's your self-concept. Do you
Yeah.
trust yourself?
The point that I wanted to make was the hustling. It like hustling is a really good way to have a bunch of average ideas
Yeah.
that like don't really move you forward, but they feel like they move you forward because there's something to do.
Yes.
And like where I like the like 1 billion idea concept is like, well, I don't know, like if this book is my breakout book, then like I don't have to do all of these other things. So like if like to me it actually makes the pressure lower because now I'm like, well, I don't like I just emailed my assistant this morning. I was like, we're posting on all of these platforms and like I just want you to focus on Substack because like that's where I'm really strong and like I already have heat there. Like let's just like figure out how to do the thing that I already am doing well instead of posting on all of these platforms that like don't work. And like maybe the Substack thing won't work, but like I know that I already have traction here, so
Yeah,
I'm
but it's
just gonna keep
already
doing
worked.
that. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So you can't you shouldn't even say it won't work. Well, I see what you're saying about saying that, but in other words, like telling a better story. This is a thing we talk about a lot, and maybe it's kind of adjacent to like getting over your blocks is yes, asking yourself questions like, what do I do well? And what am I doing that's working? Because
Yeah.
we tend to ask ourselves really self-sabotaging questions like, why am I so bad at this thing? Or why aren't ads ever working for me? And think about so our subconscious is built to want to find answers for us. It's like your little golden retriever. It's like, you got it. You want an answer to that? I'm on it, right? And it will, so then you're like, why do I suck? And it's like, I will show you why.
Right.
And then you start seeing things that you take as reaffirmation that you suck. Like, oh, this is why, because, my book made $5 today or whatever. And you just use it as reaffirming that this is your
Right.
truth. So you just ask different questions and you get better feeling answers. And it's still true. It's just different perspective, right? So yours was like, what's already going well for us? What are we already strong in? Oh, this. Okay, let's put more effort there. That feels good. That makes more sense. You will get essentially, for lack of a better word, like better ROI on your
Right.
time or whatever. Yeah, that makes a huge difference in how you approach your business and how you feel about it. That's awesome.
Yeah. I often say when I have coaching clients, I say, if it was working, it would be working.
If But you have to say it really gentle because
Right.
you know it's like hitting them.
Oh, I don't have this. I like so you should, but like I'm like you paid me $250 or whatever my rate is at the time to be here.
Yeah.
Like I love you. I know I'm great, but like I'm not. No one pays that amount of money if the thing that's working is working. Like so
Yeah.
you can fight this way or that way, but like money talks and
Yeah.
like I don't
Yeah.
know. If it was
I
working, you
I
wouldn't
know.
be here.
I do soften it for some people who I can tell can't. I like try to read the room a little, but
Sure.
because I'm saying those types of things the whole call.
Right.
I'm like, I'm sorry, this is gonna hurt, but say all these truths. Yeah, if it was working, it'd be working. I love that.
Yeah, and it's like well, the thing is, they already know what's working.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, it's like but by the time we get done, it's like, okay, well, like you just named three things that are working and like 28 things that aren't working.
Hmm.
And my one of my dear friends was like, I don't know what like why it's not. And I'm like, yes, you do, because you're doing like I know I could tell you right now in 3 seconds the things that are working. And she's like, and it's like, no, you couldn't. And I was like, this. You haven't done one of these three things in a year. And I know because I've been watching. And she's like, oh,
Yeah,
I,
but you know what? I wonder too if like so when I see that with my friends, it's because they got busy watching and listening to all the
right,
experts out here saying do all this stuff, right? And instead, I feel like I get over so many blocks when I just come back to my business and my data and my results and my experience and I look at me. I keep my eyes on my own paper and like compare me to me, baby.
right.
I only compare me to me.
Okay, so I will ask you this as we like wrap towards a close is I think I found a flaw in this thing, which is true. But like I also feel like when things are working, there's at least a certain class of human who's like, well, that's working, so I'm not going to do it because it's boring. I'm going to do the other. I'm going to go find the next thing because like these three things, I know these three things work, and now I'm bored. I set up the process and I'm bored with them. I'm going to go find the next thing. So like it's as much do the things that are right as like get out of your own way and just go back to the things that like are working. So like does that sound right to you? Like does
Yeah,
that
I don't want to make such a broad strokes comment, but like I'm going to. Which is when you were saying that I was thinking, oh, those are the people who every accomplishment they hit is empty by the time they get there
right?
and go, like they don't feel it. Like they go like I'll have made it when kind of thing and like,
Hmm.
oh, well, I'll have made it when this, but then they get there and then it's empty. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll tell
Yeah.
you a story, a quick story. This past week, I was talking to my wife about how my last article didn't do well. And she's like, what did it do? I was like, I don't know, man. It took like 3 days for it to get to 20,000 views. And she's like, I need you to stop there because like this is absurd. Like I would kill to have 20,000 views in years in my articles. And I was like, wait, okay. So like that's not normal. And she's like, no. And I was like, because that's my normal. Like this is my
Yeah.
normally things get to 20,000 views in like one day for me. And so like 3 days is like, oh my God, like triple the amount of time. Like imagine if something that was successful, you took three times longer. And she's like, this is not normal, son. Like you need to have a reality check. And so yeah, I mean, I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah. But this comes up a lot actually. So a tool that we like exercise that we do a lot in HEA is like changing your perspective of the lens you're looking through at that thing so that, and when you do that, the story changes. Like, so we use little you. So imagine younger Russell, like, I don't know, 10 years old, right? Coming up and seeing your life, seeing that, even that specific thing about your life right now, what would 10-year-old Russell say? Would he be like, yeah, dude, that's pretty ridiculous, pretty terrible that it took you 3 days? Like, you're a loser.
Yeah. I'll tell you how I get through it. I literally look at pictures of stadiums that have that many people. That's what I
Yeah,
did.
that's it.
I was like,
That's it.
oh, like 20,000 people is like a baseball stadium that like
Yes.
that. And so like, yeah, it's,
Yeah,
and
so it changes your perspective and now you're in. appreciation, you're in gratitude, you're feeling proud of yourself, you're feeling accomplished, you're feeling, and these are all of the states of mind or energy, however you want to call it, that draws more of what you want to you. Like, rather than like, oh, this isn't enough and it doesn't count and that's not going to draw more, right? So we want to like be more in these feelings, and that just does that. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think that also like so to go back to the thing with my assistant is like we did all sorts of things that were not working. And just like literally like by saying, what if we just like did the thing we're successful at already? We have just like more like man hours to a thing, to one problem. And like we know we can solve this problem because we solved the problem. Like we haven't solved any of those other problems because like we're not getting traction, but like we solved this problem. We just need to like solve it better.
I do think that's like a block that doesn't need to be a block, even that we as authors do that. We go, here's a thing that's not working, so I have to put extra energy into it to make it work, right? A book that's not selling, an ad that's not working, or a social media platform. But like if you go and listen or read or watch like really successful, CEOs or just, people in the world, business people, they all say they do not focus on improving their weakest points. They focus on what they're already good at and making it even stronger. That's what they put their focus on. And so it's like, yeah, that's where we should be. That's the whole thing about the floor and letting that stuff fall away. And like, I feel like I've learned the hard way more times than I even want to admit about the same freaking book where I'm like, but this book and it should, and like, so I'm going to recover it again, or I'm going to pour more money into it. And it's like, if I just took that effort and put it into the series that basically sells itself, my ROI, like it would be so much easier. Life would feel easier. Like I'd feel better about myself, but I'm like, no, but this one, and I have to get better at this. And so we make it a block, and I don't even think it needs to be a block.
Yeah,
Let it go.
especially if you're like if you're a young author, by young, not age-wise, but young, like haven't done a lot of books, people are like, well, this first book has to do a thing. And it's like, well, it does a thing. The thing is that it exists and it's
It taught
out
you how to
there
write a
and
book.
taught you how to write a book.
Yeah.
But like there's no like the 10th book will do like you'll eventually find it, but you have this happen all the time where like an author, someone's like, this book isn't selling well. And I'm like, but that's not a moral failing.
No.
That's a that's not even a failing at all. That's just like reality. And like if you sell 1 million copies of the next book, a bunch of people will read this book. Like they just will, like eventually people will be like, maybe it'll be a hidden gem later. I don't know. But
Yeah.
like I have a lot of problem with the like just write the next book thing because I think it makes us like the only thing like we have to write the next book when like we should be able to make money on a certain amount of books at some point. Like we should not have to do that. But
Yeah.
like on some level, it's like if you only have one book, you have no floor. Like you have no like it seems like the most success you will ever have, but it's probably the least success you will ever have about the first book. Every other book will likely be more successful than it.
Well,
Yeah.
and if you right, and also like you even that book that's selling at some point, like I'm like, does this sound negative? But like this is how the industry works. This is just reality. Like at some point, my first book, luckily, I don't know how, like Think Baby Jesus, like it did sell. It was probably timing, it was a lot of things, right? But at some point it wasn't selling as good anymore. And then what, So like every book, even if it sells well, isn't going to be selling well at the same level anymore at some point in your career. So yeah, either way, like goes back to like why I don't put all the pressure on the one thing, because if I want to be financially sustained, I'm more of like my goals are if I did step away from my business, would it still produce income for me? So I don't want to have to write the next book. I want my backlist to work, and the best way I know to do that is to sell that book 50 times to the same person in the market we're in right now. That's just what it is, right? Like they will buy
Mhm.
the ebook, they will buy the paperback, they will buy the special edition, they will buy the audiobook, sometimes the same reader even. So like I'm all about all these formats and how many different places and ways can I get the book into the same reader's hands? Because that's how I see like a new release when I don't have to be new releasing all the time. That's my goal. Like where you were saying yours is like the write the book and if it just makes 5 grand, I don't even want to have to write the book. I at some point very
Sure.
soon. and still be making good money. So I'm like looking at income streams. So but it is also like looking at what's working and what's not working, because even with income streams, it's easy to get overwhelmed and it's easy to feel like you have to do everything, which is another thing that
Or
people, I guess we could call a block, right? It's overwhelming. But like I'm still just looking at what's working better than other things, what do I need to never do again, what do I need to let go of even if I kind of enjoy it. And I'm not saying if it's my thing I'm gonna get rid of it if it doesn't make money, but like there's a lot of things that are my thing. I enjoy a lot of this, but like you're saying, when you focus on the Substack, it's like what is kind of like hard to keep moving, and it's like no momentum on its own, and what has momentum on its own. I really think it goes back to like trusting ourselves, because we usually, like you said earlier, usually do know answers, but we think we don't, or we think we're wrong, or we just don't trust that we know better. But I look at these like breakout successes, right? And I look at the way they're doing things, and the way that they're doing things always is like they're like, yeah, I do this thing in this weird way that nobody else does. They've figured out what works for them. And sometimes that's a little bit, feels like a little bit like magic juju. Like TikTok just works better for you than it does for me, or something like that, right? But just what you do already know. And if you can trust yourself and tap into that, you'll get through any block faster or better, I think, if you can do that.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Heather.
Thank you.